Welcome to the Driveline Baseball podcast. Today, Kyle and I are talking about the launch of our Training 2.0 system. So we're going to go into that a bit in depth. But I think, the first thing, that we should cover is just sort of like what is Training 2.0 overall, and why did we even start doing this in the first place?
Well, big thing is we have the best in-gym experience. It's not close. Everyone's cloning ours and are years behind us, and that's imitation, greatest form of flattery. So that's great. And we're continuing to improve the in-gym experience. There's tons of stuff on R&D that we're still constantly doing. However, an area that I think that we could improve in, and we have improved in, is taking that experience and making it consistent throughout the year.
Yeah.
Right? So we did, I think, a really good job with the big leaguers in 2024. 2023 as well, with the advanced reports and staying connected and all that. But that's not necessarily general, doesn't work across all types of athletes. So a big push over the last year has been, how do we make this accessible to everybody? How do we make it easier? How do we make it cost affordable? And so I think that's pretty exciting. So when you come here, there's no question you're going to leave here. It's the best. Even if you've been nowhere else, you know it's the best, right? But then when you leave, you're also going to get, world-class support. And we had to refactor a lot of our models, a lot of our work to do that and make it possible to get the best experience remotely. That is really seamless. So I'm pretty proud of that.
Yeah, I think, one of the things that drives the in-gym experience here is test, retest. The hardest thing for us is, just be guessing about what we should do next with an athlete. We really want to test and have a pretty stringent methodology of this is what we're recommending and this is why and this is how we think it's going to benefit you. And the challenge for us, at least, is that if you come here, you can throw in the $1 million launch pad. You've got all these capabilities. You can get your biomechanics done. You can swing on force plates. You can execute all this data capture, and then when you go back home, you don't have that. So, what are the components? And this is what, the Training 2.0 idea is sort of built around, is test, retest is, in many ways the soul of what we do here. Mm-hmm. It's what we,
measure ourselves. We measure, it's
I wouldn't say that we pioneered it, but we certainly popularized it. And
it's a way to hold ourselves accountable.
Yeah, exactly.
Do the athletes actually get better? Or do we not just post this big leaguer won the Cy Young? Isn't that great? Yeah, we're good. And that's great. Obviously, we're really proud of the athletes who have achieved awesome stuff. First pick of the draft, MVP, blah blah. That's great. Not downplaying those, but we need to make sure that everyone is getting better and staying in touch with everybody. And I think this is a big step forward.
And the way to do that is to then take a lot of the tools that we have here in the gym where we can actually measure your progress and make them accessible anywhere else on earth. And I think, there are a number of ways to do that. You can do a lot of that data capture with sensors. We've got throwing and hitting sensors. You can do a lot of that data capture with cameras and some of the work that we're doing there. You can do some of that work, that data capture, with just recording certain ball velocities or recording certain other types of data, or you could just passively collect it, sleep data, recovery data, et cetera. So all of those things are now basically being piped into our app, and it's truly what powers training, whether you're here, which has upgraded quite significantly, or whether you're at home. So I was thinking that we could just go sort of skill by skill and talk through how things are new on the pitching side of things, how things are new on the hitting side of things, and sort of go from there.
Yeah, a lot of this started years ago, before we ever really focused on a Training 2.0 platform. And that's, we had the first in production training motion capture lab that was used, and that was marker based, extremely accurate, but a little clumsy in many ways, required a lot of labor, could be uncomfortable, harder to throw at your maximum intensity when you're, wearing a bunch of markers. So we transitioned to a markerless setup, which a lot of people popularized, but, now we have it and we can fine tune it on our marker based data. So a lot of these, things that we've been doing to make everything more accessible and make it easier for retests has been set for many years, which has been great. And then now to be able to do that, it's been easier in gym to get these results, which that was the first thing.
Yep.
Now it's easier to retest. Now the retests are, that's not even a thing. The retests are every day. Basically because everything is so passively captured in the gym that that's awesome. So that was the first thing we had to tackle. I think we did a great job with that. Then it's like, how do we distill it into something that's on your iPhone, and is used at home with Pulse, increasing the battery life. Well, a lot of the work Max Engelbrecht has done here. The blast sensor is becoming a bigger part and easier to capture that information. The command stuff, command training has all been a huge part of where it started in gym. And I think where we've had the most success is we solve a problem for Driveline in the gym.
Yep.
And then we're like, oh, that solved the problem for the college coach, the pro athlete, the college athlete. And we're like continually surprised that that works, which is funny, but that's been the case.
Sure.
Like plyo balls, reason for that was like other alternatives weren't durable enough. Weighted bat, same thing. We had people swinging a bat 80 plus miles an hour. You got to make it more durable. And those products have been a huge hit. Smash Factor balls. We didn't do that to sell a bazillion of them, though we ended up selling a bazillion of them because it solved the problem we had.
Right.
And so this is not just like one of those, oh, it's a great product for the market, you're going to love it. And it's something we can make money on and whatever. Now this solved a problem for us and it solved a problem for our athletes. And we know that people are going to love it. So every time we've had a great product, it's because of that. And the times when we don't have a great product is where we're trying to hit this moving target we don't know. And so that's why I think I'm most excited about Training 2.0, because it demonstrably solves a problem for, and creates value for athletes we already have. And then, as we expand more online, it just really, it crushes it. So, and I think one of the best ways we can tell, is we're so close to the product that we don't even know how good it is or where it's changed or whatever. So where I think something happened as a former employee, came back, he left a couple of years ago and came back and he's training on his own. Right.
Yep.
And then he's, he's a paying customer now. It's great. And then he said, man, the smart reports and the stuff on the app and the amount of progress that's been made is crazy, and that's funny to see because, when he was here, he helped build the $1 million launch pad. Right. And he, did great work and it's awesome. And then now suddenly these same people, are seeing the next evolution of it. And they're like, this is so sick. And it's more portable and it solves a problem I have. And that's when, I think, the people that have been seen it, whether it's an athlete, an employee, whatever, has seen it for 8 to 10 years. And in this case, we're instrumental in building the 1.0 platform. When they're giving good feedback and they're not getting paid to, they're paying us, that's like, oh right. Man, we're onto something, and so it doesn't really matter what we think. It's those are the ones where you're like, okay, yeah, we got it.
Yeah. And I think that's a good place to start because the smart report is a build out of, basically how we're trying to develop stuff primarily like velocity and pitch movement, which is, a combination of fatigue monitoring, but also a combination of just like, what work are you doing today? How are we changing your mechanical profile? And like the tool there is, essentially like the smart report is you pull up your throwing program that day and, I can pull up mine on my, I can pull up ours on my phone, but it's like you pull up your throwing program for that day and it gives you your list of drills that you're supposed to do. And then at the top, it gives you either arm speed recommendations. So like, hey, stay within this arm speed on your pulse monitor, or it gives you ball velocity recommendations. So like, hey, at your max, you want to be throwing, a blue ball, whatever, 64 or 75 or whatever. So because of that, you now have an execution score. So you do your work, whatever, rather than just, mindlessly pulling up a Google sheet or pulling up your track workout before and just being like, oh, I got, walking windups again, or I've got roll-ons again or whatever. And it just being this thoughtless thing of like, all right, I'm going to do 2x10 and just knock these things out. It's like, okay, I've got to stay within like a certain range. I have a very specific thing that I'm trying to execute today. And then you're done, you're complete, you mark that done and you get graded on like, did you do a good job of executing that day's workout? That has huge implications for any number of things. One, we see over or under throwing being one of the big contributors to like all these stuff variations. But then the second thing is like, it turns many times athletes only get excited about the high intensity days.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, oh, I'm going to load up on caffeine. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get super geeked. Like I've got a velo day today. Great. And then they just mindlessly go through all the recovery days and all the like B level, like, you know, touch and feel type days. And that's where they lose. And so that like that smart report is like really the foundation of, okay, hey, we're going to tie this big goal that you have to literally what do you do today, tomorrow, the next day? Like, are you executing the plan that's laid out? Because that is in many ways the hardest part of training over a long period of time.
And the cool thing about it is not just, oh, this is what you're doing. This is your execution score. Okay, well, you know, I could do that in a spreadsheet. Did I do that? 100%, that's true. But our athletes and the fans and the, you know, employees and everyone know it's built on this huge intelligence engine, this huge amount of data, right? These execution scores are not a coach setting a number arbitrarily, which I think that's, you know, if you're a professional athlete and you're putting your faith in Driveline to get you better or to keep you the same, you want to know, like, where's the justification for this execution score? Where is your authority to tell me I didn't do a good job?
Yeah, right.
You know, and it's not Kyle Bodie, Chris Lang, and Tanner Stokke, Mike Rathwell saying like, well, I think you did a bad job. You know,
That's
it's
right.
this built on this huge amount of data distilled down. And we know demonstrably if we do these things, we get better within this band. I think, and then when we can explain that to the athlete, that's where the really advanced graphs come in that we don't show them anymore. Because that backstops all of our recommendations, right? And then once they just need to know that exists. You know, they don't need to see kinematic graphs on their smart report. You know, that makes for great Twitter content, whatever, but they want to know where our authority is derived from. So once they see all that and see how it's improved, you know, their careers and how it like stably like gets them to where they want to go, it's awesome. And that's what really shapes behavior. And we saw that with the Cincinnati Reds, with Pulse, and with Aura Rings. You know, we saw that with recovery. Suddenly our closer, you know, who no one wants to pay attention to, and he's sleeping a ton and taking all recovery seriously, earplugs, this, that, the other. One of our, you know, one of our athletes bought an air conditioner from Lowe's and just stuck it and was just blowing hot air into the hallway in Goodyear Apartments. It's Joe Boyle. I'll just say that. It was great. And Joe will cop to it. It's funny. And but he took sleeping seriously. So when people were like, you need to sleep at 60 some degrees in the room, then Joe believes that. And then he did that. Right. And so it was like, for someone like Joe and someone like that, who's trying to get to the big leagues, and he did, then they take it seriously. You need to be able to support that. Right.
Yeah.
And you can't just tell someone that these things are important and then not have a mechanism to monitor it, to study it, to make sure it actually matters. And for someone like Joe, who's extremely intelligent and very talented, that's what we're able to do. And then suddenly that was really the peer pressure spread. All these non-prospects, fifth rounders or whatever, started to get a lot better. Well, you know, suddenly everyone's going to start paying attention to those scores in their own way. You know, and it really shaped behavior without us telling them, hey, you got to change your behavior. You know, just the results on the field were the results on the field. And they started to believe that the early beginnings of Training 2.0, those smart reports, that type of idea, although it wasn't yet that, you know, that's what really made me start to believe, like, oh, that's how we're going to shape the behavior. You know, we're just going to show them these things. We're going to let them draw the inferences. And then people that are compliant, that get better, the results speak for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And I think it, you know, it ties to, you know, having some actual like meaning behind the work. Because it's not about just, you know, making this stuff up or, you know, just doing it because we said to do it. It's like, look, we have very high conviction that if you treat this day this way and you can execute that, then you've earned the right to have your velo day. And then if you know, stack a successful high intensity day, that's when guys are excited. They're like, oh, I feel like I got better today, you know, because I like tried to throw hard and I did, like, I got a PR or whatever. It's like, that's great. But it was really earned in these like 3 to 4 days where you like stacked up some good quality work, and like didn't overshoot or undershoot like what you were trying to do. And I think part of the interesting piece there is like, I think a lot of times people feel like, oh, that's going to be like too restrictive, right? Like, maybe I want to throw a little bit more today, or I don't want to throw as much or whatever. But like, we can make adjustments for that and start to contextualize a lot of that as well because of the like underlying intelligence engine that you were mentioning.
Yeah, and Connor White on a previous podcast, we sat down and said the same thing, right, about recovery, about Aura Ring, Whoop. It doesn't say what's the biggest horror stories we saw when we bought Modus, right? We turned into Pulse. What are the biggest horror stories that people would wear? Well, yeah, let's not get into that. But it's the wearing it, and then someone from the front office is like, "You can't throw today. You got to throw less."
It's the like big brother coming in being like, "You got 5 pitches today," and it's
right,
like, "How do I? What do you? No, I don't."
That was a real story. I forgot about that. Yeah, that's not. I thought that was a joke, and it is a joke, but it was real.
It is a joke.
I forgot that.
The best jokes come from
someone's like, "You got 5 pitches off the mound." Yeah, that did happen. I forgot about that.
Yeah, and it's like, no, I don't. I have like
it better be.
I have
0.
I have the 7th.
Right.
It's like, no,
or it's none, or that you can't be doing this. And so. You got to get out. That is what it is, and you got to train. You got to throw your bullpen today. So we're not taking that away. It's like, how does it impact long term? How it affects your training in a chronic perspective, and that's how we geared it. And then with the Reds, all the credit goes to Brian Conger, in my opinion, for turning it into that culture. There's a blog post on our site. If you're interested, you can search like Brian Conger Driveline Baseball. You can pull it up and read it. It's a great post by Brian. But when he rolled it out with the Reds, so much of the use of it was, how can we do more? That's how he phrased it. It wasn't about how do we do less. It was, how can we do more throwing? Yeah, because everyone wants to throw more.
Everyone,
but
it's the way to get better.
On March 10th, everyone's arm feels pretty good, and then August 90th, not so much. It's one of my favorite phrases. And that's how we did it. Being able to see those relievers throwing off the mound 6 days a week, that was crazy to me. At the end of the year, they had built up so much workload. They had felt so, they were so in tune, that when a reliever was like, "I'm not throwing today," you didn't have to question why. Is he soft? Is he hurt or whatever? He knows why, and this is his reason why. And when a reliever's thrown off the mound for the 3rd day in a row, you don't have to ask why. You know why. Yeah. And that was such a powerful thing for us. And that was really, those are the beginnings of what became Training 2.0, in my opinion. And then we roll them all up together. So you just look at your phone, you do this, and it's only going to get better. I mean, like, as people like to say, the worst it's ever going to be is today, right? And it's already pretty darn good. But imagine, as we roll in more things and train our, models, and I mean, I'm so pumped that that's what basically we work on every day. On the R&D side. And I got to give a shout out to the player development team, because this required a mindset shift. I want to talk about that, because it's not just R&D handing out these great models and all that. And I'm very proud of the work we've done on R&D. Don't get me wrong, but no plan is valuable. It always going to have an issue when it survives contact with the enemy. And the enemy is training 1,000 athletes like we do, right? And that's academy to the big leagues. And so when they're given that critical feedback, first of all, a lot of our employees almost all of our employees have just incredible work ethics. So when something goes wrong, they're just like, "Something went wrong, I got it," And we had to kind of train that out of them. We've talked about it a lot. It's like, look, we're appreciative that you'll run through a brick wall for this company. Yeah. But we're trying to get this product better. So you actually got to report all the things you don't like about it. Yep. And they've done a good job of that, and also shaping it. And that plays a huge role in what we've done. So I got to give a lot of credit to the coaches for being willing to adapt and willing to change, because what it means to be a valuable coach in 2024 and beyond is not what it was in 2020. And I think that can be hard for some people to accept. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me. It's hard for a lot of people. It's hard for the athletes. But they've done a good job of adapting, and the proof is in the pudding when you have guys like Travis Bazzana, who's obviously very talented, but the goals he had and how he changed over 3 years we watched were built on a lot of boring work and staying in these ranges. And he's very rote. He's like a robot when he trains, like he does these things. I'm doing this today. I know what I'm going to do. And he wants to know. Mm-hmm. And a lot of this Training 2.0, again, is based on our best athletes making demands of Driveline to be a better product for them. And so that's why, there are a lot of reasons I'm excited. Obviously on the R&D side, I can speak very specifically and candidly about those things, but our coaches have done a great job of shaping it. And I know Tanner Stokey and Langan have talked a lot about it on this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I think that insight is a good one, which is like, I think most of our younger athletes or our worse athletes, the main thing that they lack is like incredible execution and consistency. Mm-hmm. And our very best guys come in, and like even the extremely genetically gifted ones, they have some talent for consistent action. maybe the intensity isn't always there or whatever, but like they're extremely disciplined, and that is, every college coach will tell you, every high school coach will tell you, like that is the first big separator.
Mhm.
And so the it's interesting because this tool that was in many ways built to service, the demands of like a truly world-class athlete, uh, also is repurposed to be, the first great teaching tool of athletic consistency for our high school aged trainees, are like, freshmen in college, where it's like, I need a plan that I can repeat. And it's like, if
Yeah.
you can learn to love that stuff, then you really do have a puncher's chance of getting close to whatever your genetic
Yeah,
ceiling is.
Driveline is meeting the athlete where they are, I think, in a lot of this case, because the younger the athlete is, all the way down to academy, this smart report idea is normal to them. Like that's I wouldn't say the shocking thing, but it is a little surprising. But then when you understand that, what do they do all day? They play Fortnite, they watch streams, they play video games. So much of that is based around uh, the interaction and the gamification and a high score, right? And that's really what we're trying to do. And so it's so easy for them to understand. And the younger professional athletes, they're the same thing. A lot of them have Twitch channels, a lot of them stream, a lot of them play games. It's minor league season, major league season is long, and there's a lot of downtime. So they got to
Sure.
find reasons to do it. And chess has become extremely popular inside professional baseball too, and not so different. When I speak to my ex, Reds coworkers and all that, and they're like, "How'd you get better?" or "They get better." Invariably, it's not, "Well, I played a million games of chess." No, what it is I spent 20 minutes a day doing tactics. I bought a $9 a month subscription to Chessable or whatever, and all these online aim chess or whatever. And then it doesn't really matter what it is, as long as it's this rote thing that they're doing to get a little bit better, 1% better at something tactical, so they don't hang a piece or whatever. And that's what I've seen a lot. And it's super impressive. And so that's just normal. That's our society. And also, when all these people are watching some sort of influencer online, a lot of, whether it's Joe Rogan, to Huberman, to any of these others, like a lot of the same message comes up over and over and over again. So you got to do the simple things, you got to do the boring things. It's obvious what you got to do. If you want your HRV to be better, you got to sleep better, you got to eliminate alcohol, and you got to crush cold tubs. It's like, okay, well, they're getting the same message from everyone about the simple stuff. All right, and so Driveline is just meeting them there, and it's something we've been preaching forever. But it's one thing to preach it, it's another thing to build a product around it. And
Sure.
I think this is the first time, I wouldn't say it's the first time we built a product around it, but it's the first time we built a real scalable product that you can take it home. That's a really distilled method of what we're doing. And the AI revolution over the last 2 years has played a big role in that too.
Speaking of doing the boring stuff well, I think we should talk about Command and some of the strides that we've made there, because it's
not gotten enough publicity. It makes people mad at the employees. They're like, this is the greatest thing we've done. And before we get to Command, real quick, I wanted to shout out Sartori. Justin Sartori tweeted out, people don't understand the reports that they're getting. Our reports have changed, just for training 1.9, right?
Yeah, right.
Like these reports, now the Money Barrel stuff that we've talked about, right? If you don't know what Money Barrel is, it's a script that takes all your batted ball data if you're a professional athlete. And then if you add bat speed, we can give you a very precise and accurate score on, if you added bat speed, how much better you'll be in expected doubles, homers, power, contact, and so forth. So that's something that's now folded into all of the biomech stuff, right? So you make these biomechanical changes, it's likely to have, and these high performance changes in the jumps, likely to have this bat speed gain plus or minus, 1 standard deviation.
Yep.
You make these changes. Now and Sartori tweeted it out, and I retweeted it, which is like expected slugging, expected Wobicon, blah, blah. Now that's just a basic report. No one else has got that, right? Because you used to get this great report that was like, hey, make these changes, and it was the greatest intelligence you ever seen in your life. Proud of it, 100%. But now that exact same report has those exact same graphs, so you can see all the nerdy stuff, which is great, But then it's like, now do these things. This is how much better of a player you're going to be, and this is what it adds to your wins above replacement.
And that's same crazy, thing right? Same thing is true on the pitching side of things too.
100%,
which is like,
100%. Yeah, and that's why I just want to mention the hitting stuff before we get to the Command.
But it's true. It's true for both things. Like adding pitching velocity or adding bat speed. Like the way that our reports are broken down now is like, you have, if you make these changes, here's the likely change in output. So like, here's the likely change in bat speed, here's the likely change in pitch speed. And you can even go so far as to be like, hey, here's a report here are the pieces of your mechanics that are holding you back, and here's the degree to which they are holding you back. Here's your biomechanical profile. Your hips are deleting 2 miles an hour from your pitch speed, but your arm action is making up like an extra mile per hour.
Yep.
And then off of that, there's drill recommendations. But then that's just the beginning of the like, oh wow, this is a really unique insight that I have into like, okay, how do I make positive changes with the way that my pelvis works inside of my delivery without, messing with the thing that I'm naturally really good at, which is like the way that my arm spirals. And the answer to that question is what the smart report infrastructure was built around, which is like,
well, yeah, you got that.
You got to just crush a ton of boring work, and it's like, okay, well, great. So then, what would happen is like guys would just leave the gym,
right?
And you're like, all right, did you do it today? And it's like, yeah, I did, but it's like, number one, if you come into the gym, like if you assess, you get that information, my hips are an issue, I've got the arm action thing. And then you just, train consistently for multiple months at the gym. It's really easy for us and our incredibly smart trainers who are, quite gifted to make these like micro adjustments and to work with you on a pretty regular basis.
And the athletes themselves hold themselves to that standard because everyone's on the same standard.
No doubt. Yeah. But it's like, you're right there.
Yep.
It's not hard. The moment that you're away from the gym, and we've done this with, guys that are Cy Young Award winners, we've done it with, academy kids, like it becomes orders of magnitude more difficult to get the same level of insight that you would get just from observing the person who's standing in front of you. So that's the foundation of a lot of the smart report stuff, is it's built around like, okay, these are the changes that we need you to make. You got to make them over the 6-week, training block. Are you doing that? If the only answer is like, yes, and here's a video, then it becomes much harder to have that conversation versus like, yes, here's the video, and here's a log of all the throws that I made at whichever arm speeds. It's not like the trainer has to go in and like look at every single one and be like, oh, one of them was at like 650, but it's like, it gets aggregated, it gets folded into this thing. There's an execution score that prints on the back end of it, and now there's greater understanding between the trainer and the athlete on like, yeah, I'm doing a good job. And then it's going to map up to, all right, you actually got the thing that you were looking for.
Yeah. It lets the coaches coach and the athletes train.
Yeah.
Because we were beating our heads against the wall. Hey, why aren't you checking in with the athletes? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you doing that? It's like, look, like our coaches they're great and they do that, but it's just intractable problem, and the athlete doesn't want to be bothered like a door-to-door salesman, so this training 2.0, it gives them complete control of their career, which is what they want.
Yeah. And it's a higher level of conversation.
Yeah. And then when they talk to the coach, they can actually talk to the coach, not be lectured or not whatever, or like, hey, I did this or did this, it's great. It's great for everybody. And it's a reason, that we power the intelligence, the back end the way that we do.
Yeah. Cause the challenge is like, it's not just enough to know like, oh yeah, these are my, ball velocity spreads for that day. Like, as someone who like wants to try to do a good job, you could log a bunch of stuff, but there's just this extra layer of insight that comes with like having some span over like, yeah, these are all the throws that I've been making.
Yep.
And here's like, here's my ball velocities as well. It's like, oh.
And no one had to look at it, but our systems take care of that.
That's right.
Yeah. And then the coach gets the aggregated thing, this, and then they can have a higher level conversation, like you said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So command, speaking of,
well, yeah. So, that was how we trained command, 4 or 5 years ago, which is like
it's still on the hiring page.
Just log
Jack Scheideman. Yep, Jack Scheideman logging in for Casey Weathers.
That's right. That's
right. It still is. Yeah, I think it is.
I forgot about that.
That's right. Logging out the velocities, command, everything like that.
But yeah, so yeah, I mean, why don't you talk through what intended zones is and like how it folds into this like training 2.0 infrastructure?
Well, again, let's make sure that it meets its product market fit. You and I had a conversation about product market fit the other day about immediately on anything where it doesn't matter.
Right.
When we good enough balls, That's a great. We didn't talk about that. We launched good enough balls. We immediately had to put it behind. We had to gatekeep it. Like
Right.
we literally did. It was ridiculous. Like if we could have sold, what do you think, 5 times as much as we did if we had the inventory? If you had to guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, right. It's ridiculous. So it's like, oh shoot, product market fit. And they're like, they're great training balls. Use it for this, and then multiple junior college. I think other coaches too. I just remember a junior college coach. I think it's Jonathan Goebel. Who was just like, yeah, we use them in the games. It's junior college, man. Who cares? Like they're good enough. And I was like, oh, they're good. They're good. And he's like, you know what? We were using before, and it's like I didn't consider the base rate, right?
That's
like
right.
So it's like, man, you have product market fit so fast. And that's what the intended zone stuff. We started tweeting it out, because Joel Condre came out to me maybe a month and a half ago. Him and Brett Cook, 2 internal employees, and they're like, this is the greatest thing Driveline's done in the last couple of years, and it frustrated them about not getting. How do people not know about it? We need to create content, and so they have, and the content team has done it. No one wasn't doing their job. It was more just like, this thing is so freaking awesome, that we got to get the word out. So we started getting the word out, and then what happened today? We are not today, but I mean, it did happen today as well. But I thought of it was a college coach was like, can I buy that? I'm gonna buy that, right? I have that now. My coach at my alma mater was just like, I'll take that immediately.
Yeah.
Like, please, can I do? And I was like, okay, there's product market fit. There's something here for sure.
Well, yeah. So explain what it is that.
Yeah, well, I just want to start with
Baldwin Wallace would like to buy.
Yeah, is that it's a way, for, again, it's part of the training 2.0 ethos, right? You can get on the mound, an athlete. There can be a coach there might not be, but they get on there, they put in their locations, and it's a simple touchscreen. Where do I want to throw the ball? What type of pitch am I throwing, right? And then you throw to that location, and we automatically track not just the velocity and the location, whatever, but all the parameters of it. So you're getting not only an intended miss, but like the run value of that pitch and everything, right? So all of our intelligence stuff goes into that, and you track it over time. And that's such a huge thing. And then not only from that information can you tell your intended miss, are you getting better? And how good is your command today? Which, first of all, no one does that. So we've already done that. We've solved that, which is incredible.
Yeah.
Right. But then now it's a training apparatus. How do I get better? Okay, well, I'm going to use underload, overload command balls. And then what does my intended miss look like? And where am I missing with these types of pitches? Because we don't just do what's your command like on all the pitches. We do command per pitch. We can do granular, pitch command.
Yeah.
So your slider.
Because actually, that's the big misconception about command is like,
yeah,
I have good command or not.
Right.
And it's like, no, some guys have good command of 2 pitches and shit command of 2 other pitches.
Right. And what have we seen in the big leagues? Kind of implicitly, people understand that a large percentage of pitchers, possibly majority, have better command of a breaking ball than they do of their fastball. So we're seeing 2-0 sliders. We're seeing, and it's, oh yeah, well, you don't want a hitter's count. Sure. But a lot of them, if you ask them, like, what pitch would you throw at 3 a.m, you had to throw a strike for $10,000 and you're delirious. Like, they're going to throw a cutter. Like, they're going to throw a change, they're going to throw not change up. They're going to throw insane, but it's mostly a slider or a cutter. It's rarely their fastball. A lot of the times, the answer you get is a sinker to some degree, but it's almost always a spin type pitch that's firm. So cutter is the number. If they have a cutter, that's what they're going to go to almost all the time.
Yeah.
Then if they don't throw that, probably a slider. And 4-seam fastball tends to really be like low on the list. Because it's much more of a strikeout pitch these days. If they throw a sinker, okay, they can go to that often. Then I did an informal polling of a lot of athletes, and it was really common. So, but that doesn't mean you just have bad command of your fastball. So in theory, now we're working on the fastball. To what location? Okay, well, do we want to throw down and away for a strike? Well, we should work on that. And how's your fastball down and away command versus your fastball out command? And now we can actually track all that, which I think is really awesome.
So take everybody through the process of like, what is the pitcher experience when they do this, and like, in what way is it different than just like throwing to a 9 pocket?
It's the ultimate video game. My comment to you is that it should replace the pitch radar thing at the stadiums.
Sure.
So you get on the mound and there's this touch screen in front of you or to the side of you. You sign in with your track ID. We pull all your information, right? It's great. You see your intended miss, in the past. You set a location, you set a pitch type, you throw that pitch within 5 seconds. You can tell the intended zone miss.
But you throw the pitch to what?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, you're throwing it to. You can, yeah, absolutely. So a lot of our big leaguers like to throw to a catcher, so they're doing that right now, and that's the beautiful thing about the product is it's very versatile. But the majority of people there's a projected image on a horse trailer mat on like a big durable target, and you're seeing the 9 box effectively plus the glove target. So you're seeing what you put on the screen. You're seeing 60 feet 6 inches away. And then you hit this thing with a loud thud. It's nice.
So you show up, toe the rubber or don't toe the rubber, punch in all right, I want to throw sliders low and away.
Yep.
So toe the rubber, look down, and behind the dish is a projected image of a glove low and away, which is your slider target.
Yep.
You throw it, and then if you dot it or whether you like hook one glove side or whatever, either way, you're getting a miss distance.
Yeah, again, instant feedback. Yeah.
So you're getting like, hey, you missed this one by like 0.5 inches, which would be like pretty dotted.
Yeah, dotted. Anything within 1 inch, yeah.
Or you would be like, you missed this by like, 15 inches or whatever, which is not good at all.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. You're getting that instant feedback. And that's great, because it's instant feedback, it's gamification, it's a lot of fun. But what I think the athletes have gotten a lot out of, and I know they've talked to me about it, is after the session and later on, imagine, okay, we train all this. Let's fast forward real quick into the season, because this goes to the training 2.0 and the smart reports and the in-season deliverable. Not only are you getting your intended miss and what you're good at and how you do these things, but you're getting now an aim target, because now we know that you miss not just like, oh, you have an average miss of 8 inches on your slider, low and away.
Yep.
But it's actually 4 inches to the glove side, 12 inches to the arm side, or, other way around, whatever. So our automatic intelligence advanced reports to say, here's your target, but aim here with the pitch.
So like this pitch is going to play best low and away.
Yep.
So because of that, and because of where you spray the ball, like you should actually be aiming center down, because you're going to carry that more likely than not.
Yep.
You're going to carry it over into the slot that you actually want to be throwing.
Yep. Or, the other side of it is you actually have to aim down and away more, because your slider is more likely to back up, either way, but we automatically correct for that. And there's no coach that has to do any of that work. It's just purely touch the screen, throw the pitch, boom, boom, boom. It's the easiest thing in the world. It's awesome.
Yeah. And that's just for big leaguers?
No, I mean, it's for everybody. What I think is really cool about the academy side is now they can judge, and this is why I think it's a great device, is that the academy kids, high school kids, college, whatever, they can see like a leaderboard. Here's our best big leaguers. Here's their command, our best big league command guys.
Yep.
And then they can measure themselves against that and see how far away they are, how close they are to that, right? And so it's this constantly evolving target that they can actually measure themselves, because they all know a big leaguer throws 95. Okay, that's great. I throw 65, right? And so they know that they got to get better. They don't feel discouraged. They get there. It's a road to that. They get that. But like, what's good command, and where is our best guy? Where's Alex Cobb's command? Where's Nick Martinez? I mean, that guy is crazy. His command is unbelievable. So like, where am I at compared to Nick Martinez? Well, pretty far away. But I get, within every session, within every week, within every month, within every off season, I can see I'm getting better by an inch or two on all these pitches. And I'm starting to approach some of the best people. So honestly, yes, it is for the big leaguers. I'm not trying to say it isn't. It's great. But for the academy kids, it's such an awesome tool for younger kids and high school kids to be able to get repetitive, fun gamification.
Yeah.
It's a video game, but for real life, I feel like this is the first thing I've felt about pitching that I felt about hit tracks when I first saw it. It's like you immediately know it's going to be successful.
I think that's the part of the challenge, is that command gets a bad rap because, one, it's truly important enough in terms of getting outs that people will just holler about it if you have bad command. Like if you have bad command, you are borderline unplayable.
Yeah.
No matter how, dripping with tools you might be. And so because of that, you would think that like everybody would pay attention to it or whatever, but they don't, because it's very hard to get a sense for what is actually good command. Like, and part of that is because there's just unreasonable expectations from there's no real information. And so that lends itself to just ludicrous, unrealistic expectations being placed on kids at like the lowest levels of baseball. At least once a month, there's somebody who's like, here's my expectations of like, here's what I sent all my freshman high school kids. It's like 75% strikes, and it's like, it's crazy. Buddy, like, come on.
Yeah, go to fangraphs.com.
That's right. Mix in a search.
Yeah. In-zone percentage.
But like, so,
in-zone percentage on 3-0 counts is what you should look at.
So it's like, it's these unreasonable expectations that filter down, but then because it is important, and there is truly no more frustrating way to lose a baseball game than to watch like just your pitcher walk the house. It gets a ton of pressure put on these kids with no real like, hey, this is what is good or even reasonable to ask. Meanwhile, like you would never like see a kid who's a freshman in high school throwing 71 miles an hour and be like, throw 95.
Right.
You know, it's like, what? Like, he can't.
Yeah.
You know, he cannot. And this is why I think the command thing is so great, is that like, to be able to put that stuff on a leaderboard, like no kid is walking in here being like, well, I don't understand why I don't hit the ball 450 feet. You know,
Right.
it's like,
Yeah.
well, you're 11. You know, it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
but there are legitimately coaches walking this earth right now being like, I don't see why you can't be, I don't see, not just you, but I don't see why everybody on my team can't be prime Greg Maddux.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. I mean, it's a frustrating experience, you know, as someone who's coached high school ball and little league. You know, I get it, but it's part of a journey, you know, so we all got to be part of it. But they have a point, though, is like, you know, there's got to be a way to, in those complaints and in those unreasonable statements, there is a business opportunity.
So this is the thing, is like, I actually don't think that those coaches are wrong. I mean, they're wrong to not mix in a search for, you know, what the in zone percentage is, but they're not wrong to prioritize, like, this is the way that we're going to get outs.
Yeah.
Where I think the interesting thing is like, you can start to train something that, like, because they're just misinformed, then the practice environment becomes bad, right? Because it's like, you got to throw strikes, and it just becomes like too much of just like for something that they can't really control, right? Like, it's one thing to expect greatness when greatness is achievable, and it's another if it's not achievable, then you're just like needlessly harassing them. But if you can make it fun, and there's some sort of understanding of like, well, yeah, I don't hit the ball 450 feet, but I hit the ball 315 last week, and now I hit it 325, and there's a pretty reasonable path for me to be like hitting the ball further on a regular basis. Then all of a sudden, like, that is something that we care about, and it is fun, and it is just because it's measurable and understandable.
Yep. Yeah, totally. I mean, it's just such a, the gamification, the instant feedback, it's a hit at all the levels.
Yeah. Okay, so you throw, you get your miss distance, whatever. How do you take that information and then go apply it away from that environment? Like, how does a college pitcher go back to school and like apply what he's learned? You had a conversation, or you were talking to Matt Kress a little bit about like, there's sort of like your over the rubber and over the plate type segmenting of bullpens.
Yeah. And if you're, over the rubber being, we're just focusing on stuff. It's the typical Twitter video that gets yelled at.
That's right.
And then
Ball.
over the plate is just execution, scores, more or less. And so where I think this is, I want to talk about the college coach, where it empowers them, is it allows people to work on command. It allows people to do this with a simple tracking application. They just set up the 9 pocket and they throw, and they just tag it, like where they throw and where they locate, and then this allows the coach to coach other things, and do other things. They don't have to be a ball hawk and watch that.
Yeah.
And so then the coach, and so when I talked to, Brian Harrison at Baldwin Wallace, so much of, college contact rules are what they are. You have, especially at the Division III level, right?
Yeah.
But it's at all the levels, right? And, so like being able, imagine, oh, did you work on your command today? Or did this? And it's a captain's practice. Coach can't be there. You can log all this information, and you can see which athletes are actually doing that and logging their miss distances on an app, right, into a 9 pocket. So while they don't have a projector and all this other stuff, really you don't care about those stuff scores. Then you're caring about the execution, so they can log that in the app, which I think is awesome.
Yeah.
So that, and then the coach, this is not necessarily how it's being used now, but I can see it. Whereas the college coach, they can actually see who's getting, because you can see who's squatting more weight. You can see who's throwing faster. You can see who's hitting the ball further. But you can really see who's actually working on the command and who's actually getting better, and then who you can trust and give those people chances in the midweek games. Well, no, currently the answer is no to that, right? But imagine if you had the whole team on this, or all your pitchers, or half the pitchers, or whatever, you could actually tell, pretty reasonably, and the pitchers do the work and log all that information. And I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. 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 I think, I think, I think we should talk. The other thing that uh, I think we should talk a little bit about the jump testing stuff too,
Sure.
because like where where I where I have seen probably the biggest leap, no pun intended,
Oh,
is like the ability to move from, hey, this is simple just logging of the weights, which like very few people are doing at some scale. Like you have to really demand that like this is the thing in order to get like weight tracking at scale. Most guys are just like, yep, I remember what I did last week, which,
yep.
Maybe they did, maybe they don't. Um, and so there's this evolution to like, hey, we can truly get one to one, the force plate testing that we run at Driveline and, this jump testing that we can do away from the gym. It's really, started to unlock a lot of really positive athlete behaviors. And, you were pretty foundational to seeing it come to light along with Whitey. And so I'm curious, like how you see that evolving.
Again, I think about it as someone who used to be a coach. It's just so just takes all that work off the shoulders. The players can just set up a tripod, get the video, and like you get so much rich information on who's training, who's getting better. The player themselves gets all that great information on the power output, which we know has huge impacts. And again, this goes back to what we were originally talking about, which was, why should I do these jump tests? Why should I care about this stuff? Well, if you come to the gym, you know why, because our reports tell you like these things improve these things, and you get
Yeah.
better bat speed, pitch velocity, whatever. So to be able to have that at home, on your iPad, your iPhone, whatever, and track that information, it's very empowering, because you feel like not only, oh, well, I'm squatting and I squatted 5 pounds more. Well, does that impact my bat speeds? Yep. I mean, conceptually, yes, I know that. Right. But now with these jump power tests, you're excited to put this information in, because A, it impacts your future programming, but B, you now know, like, is this actually improving? Because I know this is going to improve my pitch velocity. I know this is going to improve my bat speed. And I think that's why I think that's why we've had such great success with it.
Yeah. It, what do you think are like, what do you think is the future of that? Like where can it go if it is this like frictionless analysis of power output?
I think it's just this journey, which we're getting to. It's just explaining it a little bit better, and the visuals of it, which we're getting there, of just like where you are today, where you want to be next year, and where you want to be in 5 years, and like being able to see like a hero's journey type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like power is one of those scales, right? And then mechanics, whatever, it's your swing mechanics, your movement scores, right? And then we just see this, and here's today, here's like the line of today, and where are you on the graph on your own personal journey?
Mm-hmm.
And to me, like, there's nothing more empowering and holding yourself responsible than something like that, right? And that's hard, because it's not hard. We're going to do it. It arguably is already done. We just need to continue to build that product. But if you don't have all that information and collected data for the last 15 years like we did, how do you build that?
Sure.
How do you know what good command looks like? How do you know what the average miss distance is of actual pitchers, not what just gets tweeted out? And we have all that information. So then when the person sees, I'm committed, I want to be drafted in the top 10 rounds, I'm currently a high school junior, right? We can credibly say for the next 6 years, this is what it looks like, and this is where you got to be.
Yeah.
And like focus there. Here's the next 30 days. Here's the next 365 days. So they can keep their vision down, but they can believe in this next 5-year plan, which is only going to evolve and get better. And so to me, like, that's the real thing, is if we can offer that, that's something, that doesn't really exist in a lot of, where else can you go? People want surety. Like, I do this and I get better. Okay. That's not the case in anything, but how can we get as close to that as possible? And I think that this product is going to be the only thing on the market that does that. You can actually see your journey over the next, 30 days, 365 days, and 5 years on where you need to get to. And I think that's what everyone really wants. I mean, I know that's what they all ask for. And to be able to actually show them and grade them based on their own journey, and like, are they being honest with themselves? I mean, that's going to be massively popular. There's no doubt about it.
The one thing that I'll say is that, like, just being able to have somebody throw or swing a bat and then pair it with their jump testing data
Mm-hmm.
to be able to generate, like, hey, this is your bat speed and this is your expected bat speed, or this is your pitch speed and this is your expected pitch speed, is so, the reason I think it's a useful diagnostic is that it basically immediately gives you insight into, do we have a physical issue or do we have a skill issue?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if your expected velocity is over your actual velocity,
Mm-hmm.
then, like, you're powerful enough to get a little bit more out of your body. You just have some sort of a skill issue. So what is that? Like, okay, let's go figure it out. But I think, so much of helping athletes solve these problems throughout their careers is, like, there just isn't that much time. I mean, baseball is
I was
this,
about to
like,
say that, yeah.
series of levels.
Right.
And at each point you're fighting for, like, one, can I get and stay on the field at the level that I'm currently at while also raising my ceiling enough to have some shot at being at the next one. And the challenge there is that, like, some of those things are at odds with one another. Like, you get to stay on the field because you're an elite executor and competitor, but then if you spend all of your time towards execution and competition, unless you're incredibly naturally gifted, like, you're going to hit some ceiling at some point. So you have to do certain activities to try to raise the ceiling a bit. But then where does the time come from? Like, because you have the schedule, you have school, you have all these competing demands. And so what you need is effectiveness. Like, you need efficiency and effectiveness to just be like, this is the stuff that's going to work. This is your diagnosis. This is specifically what you need to work on. And it's the minimum effective dose.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, the macro time is also part of it. If you have 5 years through your whatever, that's not a lot of time to achieve the goals. So you can't really have wasted reps. You can't really be guessing. And I think this all but eliminates that, which I think is really powerful.
Yeah. Cause so it's interesting because there was a long-term big leaguer who was, expressing some doubts about, our effectiveness or how novel any of the stuff that we're doing is. And, this was in the context of bat speed and, like, is it even useful and blah, blah, blah. And, it's been widely reported that Mookie Betts was in here with the Dodgers, and some of the advice that we gave him at the time was like, look, you need to gain some weight and you need to gain some strength and athleticism, and that there's some potentially some specific strength work that we can do, but that's really the focus for the off season. And the retort is like, oh well, like, just lift weights and, like, get stronger. Like, that's not science, and it's like, first of all, I get that. But second of all, like, it's not that is the recommendation. That's not the secret. The secret is that you don't have to do all the other stuff. The secret is in knowing, like, you have 18 weeks to prepare for this next season, and your lowest hanging fruit is upper body power and, like, swinging some weighted bats. And that's it. Like, so that if you focus on that and that primarily, that's going to be your greatest lift. And then you can ignore all of this other stuff. Like, all of the secret is not in, like, oh, you told me to just do roll-ins. Like, I could do roll-ins anywhere. It's like, no. It's the fact that you can ignore
Right.
this other stuff. Like, that is the secret of why any of these diagnostic things are effective or whatever. It's like, oh, they just told me to do X and Y and Z. And it's like, Well, yeah, but like what you're doing right now is doom scrolling Instagram and randomly spaz trying like a million different drills. Like we're giving you the confidence to stop doing that and just do this shit that's going to work.
Yep.
And it's like it's no different than like, you know, dieting or anything else where it's like no, we've just all we've done is like done the elimination diet to be like, yeah, it's mangoes. Just
Yeah.
stop eating mangoes.
That's the problem.
You know, it's like, yeah, okay, like
The T work.
it's like, oh, all they did was tell me to stop eating mangoes.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, but like, you know, that's the big unlock.
Yeah.
Is like we just saved you a ton of time on like having to go through and eliminate every single food in existence. It's like, yeah, just do this.
Yeah. You can have high confidence in, you know, in our recommendations because
Right.
of everything we talked about with the intelligence and everything that we're building on the back end.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the hitting stuff.
What do we got?
What do we got? Well, so how does the smart report world shift when you're talking about hitting? Because we're talking about like, we've got, you know, throwing execution scores and it's driven by pulse and all this stuff. But like, you know, what changes when we move to the sweeter science?
Wow. There you go. I mean, not much, right? It's pretty fluid on like number of swings, types of things that we got to do, and that's the other thing, right? Like, oh, well, all they told me to do is offset open drill or whatever. It's like, well, yeah, but then we get to eliminate all the other stuff, right? So it's basically the exact same thing. So you can have really strong confidence that you know the recommendations you're getting are actually tailored to your swing path, what you need to get better at, and it's tied, you know, not that it isn't on pitching, but it's really tied in hitting to the high performance side. You know, that we're making sure that that's all dialed. So that's what I think is really powerful.
Yeah, we've started to incorporate a lot of the like air swings with bat to ball, and I'm curious, like what do you think? What do you think that has the capability to unlock for us?
Yeah, so it's like contact tracking and being able to measure how our bat to ball skills, right? The big three being right bat speed, bat to ball / smash factor. Like those things are all pretty important in swing decisions, right? So being able to measure those things in a very simple and mostly automated way gives you confidence that you're not taking 100 swings in the cage thinking that maybe it will improve, right? You know what you have to work on, you know how to track it, you know how simple it is to track in a lot of ways. And yeah, that's it. And the liberation of the big three being like, this is what we focus on, these are the things that matter, these are the weights, right? Now for you, your bat speed's really good, you got to do these things and so forth, right? So being able to measure those things and have targeted training, I think it's the same as pitching. You just wake up and you know what you got to work on.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it is like you're just trying to. I think on the hitting side of things, when I talk to Stokey and our hitting trainers about this stuff, it's like you're just trying so hard to not work yourself into these like bad patterns, because you can. There's some amount of slumps that are just like you're chasing some feel, you're trying to work into something else, and then all of a sudden something flips and you're just into this place where you're like missing more, and then that starts to put you into a bit of a spiral, and then it's just a guessing game after a guessing game after a guessing game of like, how do I get myself back right, whatever, because you're like trying to chase this one little improvement, but then you take like 3 steps backwards and you're like, oh shit, what did I do? And I think that's the beauty of this like daily sort of like report functionality, which is like, hey, yeah, when you started chasing those things, like you got way too steep. Like you didn't know that was occurring, but it was, and it's off plan for you. Like you can't be this steep and still be effective. Like that's not going to work for you. So like, all right, we got to work back towards these other things, and so that's where I think a lot of it comes into play, which is like, all right, yeah, like you've got to keep your speeds high, and then you've got to stay within these certain ranges of like good adjustable bat paths that are going to keep you like locked in. And if you move from environment to environment and all of a sudden, you've got a week or two on the tee, and so you start to get a little longer and whatever, and then you get into a different environment and you got a ton of swing and miss because you're trying to carry the tee swing over into the cage work. It's like, shit, all right, well, previously the answer was like, I guess I got to go figure it out, like, so back to the tee or like whatever. Whereas like this is more just like, hey, real quick, like these were your swings when you were really good. You're in this range. Like we got to fix that. So let's try these 3 drills and try to get you back focused up.
It also really helps combat slumps, So if your process data is dialed, bat speeds are good, attack angles good, bat to ball good, like, and they're all within the optimal ranges. It gives you're just like, okay, I don't have to do anything. I'm 0 for 10, but I don't have to freak out, right? Like these metrics seem good. Now I'll watch them film. What am I not maybe understanding about the game at a higher level?
Yep.
Right. But I can feel good about my swing and I can feel good about that. My approach. Awesome. That eliminates like 80% of the worries. Right. So I can go back to my practice routine. I feel good about all that. And then you can make some subjective. And then this again goes to the fact that now the coach can coach. They don't have to read you your bat speeds. They don't have to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The coach can talk about, okay, well, why, like what types of pitch sequences and the finer art of the game rather than the science. The science is all taken care of it. So great when you're going good. You like to boast. You look at those things, but even more important when you're slumping, either on the pitching or the hitting side. Like, am I executing at these things? Are my process scores good? Okay, that's a huge weight off my shoulders. I feel good about this. Now, maybe I don't do anything. Maybe I just keep going at the process. Or maybe is it something subjective that I can spend my time on the art of baseball rather than the science of it?
Yeah.
So I think, that's a really big weight off people's shoulders.
Yeah. I mean, that is a really good point, which is like, so much of that component of it is just like, is my process dialed?
Right.
Like, and the moment you struggle on the hitting side of things, you just think it's a swing issue.
Right.
It's like, oh, everything will be fixed if my swing is great. Mm-hmm. And it's like, yeah, maybe.
Right. Well, what is your swing? Is it bad now? Do you know?
Yeah, that's right. And now, yeah. Do you know that your swing is bad? Do you know for sure that your swing is bad?
Yeah. Now you do.
Yeah.
So I think it's awesome when you're going bad and you're searching for answers. What it's almost like the stuff you're talking about mangoes. Like you can eliminate all of these things. These are not the problem. Now we can focus on perhaps nothing because there's a lot of random variance in batted ball data. And
yeah, whatever. For sure. It's worse on the hitting side.
Right, so maybe we don't focus on anything, but it eliminates all this stuff that we don't have to focus on now, which is great.
Yeah.
And then allows the hitter to either A, coast, play 10 more games, then look at the data, then decide, or okay, maybe I'm going to get off the trajectory. I'm going to face more sliders, or I'm going to face, hey, coach, can I stand in on lefties throwing sliders? Like I need to see this a little bit more, right? And that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, or maybe you're just maybe you are just like getting off swings on pitches you shouldn't be swinging at.
Right. So I think that's why it's pretty awesome to eliminate all that stuff.
Yeah. What do you think is next for us here? Like, what are the things that you're most excited about as we start to roll this out? But like, 2-3 years from now, what do you think we're going to be looking back on being like, this is so cool?
Well, I think a big part of what's going to be interesting is the expanding of the track app. Motion capture is still going to be, our motion capture capabilities are just going to keep going up. Some sort of distilled model where we can get all the advanced biomechanical data that we get now in your swing or your throw, and then being able to get single camera, biomechanical data with pose that's like, tuned to our models, and being able to get some more execution scores on that. Are these things that we've identified, the hips, whatever it is, this, and being able to measure those things in real time right now, like, or not real time, but like within, an hour. A big part of, of what we can offer big leaguers and pro guys is that they can get their in-game biomech data, from the teams and from the services that they have. And then we can take a look at it. We have done that, that's great. But your average college kid or academy kid they don't play in a field with Kinetrax or whatever,
Some do.
Some do for sure. And for them, we can help. There's no doubt. But we got to get to a point where we distill our models down to something in your pocket that works that way. And we will do that. I mean, we've already made huge strides in those areas, and we'll continue to do that because that's really the next logical extension of training 2.0.
Yeah. I mean, I think that distills it quite neatly down, which is like for such a long period of time, like the thing that Driveline was known for and what I think was groundbreaking, as we first started gaining traction inside of the industry is like our lab is really good and we're the first people to sort of aim sports science related concepts to training these guys in a very specific way, specifically inside of baseball. And that has worked and produced, a series of training protocols that I think are are much better than what baseball players had access to 10, 15 years ago. Like right now, your average influencer on Instagram is writing a program that is, I don't know, 4 or 5 times better than what was available 15, 20 years ago. And like, we've played a big part in popularizing a lot of these training concepts on the pitching and hitting side of things. And I think what I'm excited about is like pretty soon, like the lab is just gonna live in your pocket.
Yep.
Like it's just always gonna be around and available. And our coaches are going to be completely empowered to collect and synthesize a bunch more information about you so that they can be more helpful. But then secondarily, like the types of data that we can capture and the ways that we can be valuable to players, like no matter where they are, is going to be leaps and bounds ahead of anything else, and is going to mirror what's available, when you come out and have a great training experience here.
Yep. Yeah. No doubt.
And I think if you're listening to the podcast or whatever, you're like, all right, what should I do? Like, you should just come here, throw on intended zones, hit in the launch pad, come get an assessment, and then, we can show you what the smart reports look like and how to start that journey. And we can go from there.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're younger, Devin Morgan, those guys are running, and, Steven Strike down in Arizona, and soon in Florida, we have these free periods of time to see it all. There's no obligation. So I think that it's great. And these kids, once the kids get on it, if you're a parent watching this and you're like, well, I don't know, all this stuff seems pretty high level. We offer it for free. You bring your kids in, see what they think, and proof is in the pudding. These kids love this kind of stuff.
Yeah, they do.
So
they do.
Yeah, just always opportunity for that too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the time, Kyle.
My pleasure.
As always.
My pleasure. Yeah.
As always, this has been the Driveline Baseball Podcast.
That's right.